under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Dolan?
Here.
Mr. Akmanowitz?
Present.
Mr. Howell?
I'm here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Janice Clemens? Here. Mr. Cormack?
Here.
Mr. Fumo?
Here.
Mr. Missantry?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Spear?
Here. I'm here.
All right. So I apologize that we're starting late. We were in an executive session to discuss personnel matters. So with that, we can move on. Recognition and comments from the audience on agenda items. This is our reorganization meeting. Any comments? Seeing none. So our first order of business is the nomination and election of officers. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to nominate blank as the chairperson for 2020.
I would like to nominate David Alvarez for chairperson of the board.
Second. Are there any other?
Doesn't for some clarity, they have to be from Quakertown, right?
Yes. Unless there's no one from Quakertown willing to serve in that position.
I'd be willing, oh, yeah.
See, someone should.
I seconded it. Yes. Are there any other motions for nominations?
Move to close the nomination.
Yes, sir. All those in favor of Mr. David Akmanowitz serving as the chairperson for 2020? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion to appoint David Akmanowitz as chairperson passes 9-0. Next, I'm looking for a motion to nominate blank as the as the vice chairperson for 2020, and this should be a policy.
I nominate James Howell.
Motion by Mr. Fumo, seconded by Mr. Anderson. Any other nominations? Seeing none, looking for a motion to close.
Yeah, motion to close.
Second.
Second, whatever.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion to appoint Mr. Hallwell as vice chairperson for 2020 passes 9-0. Now I'm looking for a motion to nominate blank as the treasurer for the 2020. This should be a Pennridge member.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Megan as treasurer.
Second? Any other nominations for treasurer for 2020?
Move to close nomination.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion to appoint Ms. Janice Clemens as treasurer for 2020 passes 9-0. Oh, standing committee members. So 2020 standing committees. Facilities, we have Robert Fumo, Mr. Klein, and Melissa Kildare. Can we just? I need two. I need a Quakertown board member and I need a Pennridge board member to serve on the facilities committee for 2019.
Oh, yes, I would like to do facilities.
And Mr. Spear will be serving on
Yeah. I would say.
You don't.
facilities. Okay, I didn't think we needed to do that.
Frankly, it's in there.
That was just my nice way of saying it.
So, finance, we have Mr. Anderson, Mr. Hollowell, and Ms. Janice Clemens. Ms. Janice Clemens is the facilities, so we need a Pennridge member to fill the finance committee. Mr. Bowles, Mr. Cormack.
Mr. Bob, I like that.
Are you willing to serve?
Sure, yes.
Perfect. And Mr. Hollowell, Mr. Anderson, are you?
Yes, that's
Okay, thank you. Policy program is Mr. Missandry, myself, and Mr. Akmanowitz.
good.
So I can't wait.
Okay. Perfect. I don't believe so, not yet. So. All right, now we have special committees, Act 93 agreement. I have Mr. Mansantry, Mr. Anderson, and Ms. Corderi, so I need a Pennridge member, as long as Mr. Mansantry and Mr. Anderson are okay in that Act 93 agreement.
When's it up?
Like 7 years.
7 years ago.
That was great, Ed.
So the workload is last year.
Well, we did, but never mind.
Okay.
You're doing such a great
We got some, information was a little, financial information was a little sketchy. So we'll have to take that road again. I would be glad to serve on it, but I can't chair it. So, I don't know who's gonna chair it, but.
Mr. Cormack.
Are you talking about I-93?
Act 93. I can do it. I mean, I can take that place of Ms. Gilberry. Articles of agreement?
I'd like to suggest we replace Mr. Stephen Klein with Chris Spear.
Sure. Megan, are you, or Ms. Clemmons, are you fine there?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Teacher contract negotiations, Mr. Hollowell, Mr. Akmanowitz, and myself.
I'm okay with Fernando.
I am going to take myself off. So our teacher contracts are up. At the same time. Yes, and we start negotiating, and I am going to be having a baby. Woo, yes.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So I needed to, I don't think I'm just gonna have enough time. So,
You don't need that pressure.
yes, okay. So I would like, I need Ms. Janice Clemmons or Mr. Cormack to step in there. Ms. Janice Clemmons.
Nominate somebody quick.
I nominate Peg.
I nominate.
Well, I see this, one of us is probably gonna end up on one and the other, so,
Why don't you handle teachers and I'll go for the support staff.
okay.
Okay, Mr. Fumo and Mr. Anderson, are you still okay on being on the support staff negotiations? Perfect. So Mr. is going to be on. All right, that brings us back to recognition and comments from the audience. General? Seeing none. Any concerns from us? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Never seen anyone but know that one.
I know. Do you want to switch seats?
No, I don't
Or do you
think
want
so. I'll
this
just
back?
move my brown.
I think we have to start over. We don't have to do
Put
so.
those in there.
I'd just like to say a few words about Katie for her dedication. But, you know, the chairperson of 18 to December 19, thank you for believing in our mission, offering invaluable leadership and support. You made a difference from the staff and administrative team. We want to thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
On your beat.
On your meeting.
Yes. You catch up to Brian soon.
I already announced the executive session, right? Okay. We've already done roll call, we've already done the pledge, and so what I'm going to do is we're going to recognize anybody from the audience who would like to speak on the agenda for our general board meeting. Yes, sir.
Robert Linden, Pennridge School District. Item 15, the adoption of use of Enroll Track software program. I looked at that website, their website for this company, and it looks like it's awfully small and it has a single developer. So you might want to look at that if it has single point of failure. If something happened to that person, your investment would go down the drain. I think there's other companies that do the same thing, so I think you ought to maybe table this item for tonight and relook for an alternative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bondage?
Yes, please.
I signed in over there. Kimberly Coaches, cosmetology teacher. I wanted to talk about item number 14, abolishing policy 125. This is abolishing adults enrolled in secondary programs. Our program has benefited from having adults in it. We have 4 seniors, 4 seniors this year. They came in as level 1s, and we've been talking to them. Their parents have been talking to us because in the last 14 years, since we became a 2-teacher program, we've had 10 slots that have been reserved for adults. Most of them are students that came in late into the program so that they can finish their hours. According to State Board of Cosmetology, if you transfer hours to another beauty school, it's up to that beauty school as to whether they accept all those hours or not. Like if you go to Jean Madeline in Philadelphia, you start back at 0. A lot of them, you have to purchase their books, you have to purchase their kit. They've already paid for all of that with us, so it's an extra added expense to the parents. So 3 out of the 4 seniors that have come in this year came in, even though they were coming in late, with the understanding of past history that they would be able to finish the program with us, pick up where they've left off, and they're not, I don't want to use the word penalized, but they're not able to pick up and continue always where they are. Like there's only 1 or 2 schools that usually take all of the hours. Like if we're transferring between technical centers as high school students, we have an agreement that we take because we all teach the same curriculum. Private schools want the money, so even though we're all teaching the same curriculum, we all have the state laws, unfortunately, they're not obligated to accept all of those hours. So I urge you to think about that. It's been a little while since we've had any adults in our program, but we've had since the remodel, like the first year of the remodel, we did have a student who was here finishing. She was a Quakertown student. And we do have her younger sister in the program right now. So, that family is already familiar with that, although she came in as a 9th grader, so she should be good and okay. But we also have another senior who has had some medical issues, who has been looking forward to being able to come next year in the fall if she needs to finish up, if she can't quite finish everything up this year. So, they all have to have their clearances, like all 3 clearances, just like any other adult. So I just urge you to think about that kind of a thing. I'm only speaking, from my experience and ours. I know we've had other adults in other programs within the school, and it's money brought into the school. So think about that. So.
I don't want to interrupt you. Are you done?
No, that's fine.
May I ask you a question? What would you say, what grade, in order for somebody to start and finish your program in their high school year, what year would they have to start?
10th grade with very few absences. Pennridge and Palisades get the most hours. Quakertown gets the least amount of hours. The Rams days are really starting to hurt some of our kids with hours, especially if they do have a medical condition. 9th grade is perfect. If they can come in 9th grade, even if they have a medical condition, with keystones, with finals, with midterms, with everything the students are pulled out for, if they come in 9th grade, they can finish our hours easily.
But if somebody wants to change up what they're doing in the middle of their junior year, or the beginning of their junior year, they're pretty much,
They only get 2 years with us, and they're missing.
125, they wouldn't be able to fulfill the back end of their credits.
Right, they'll probably be missing around 400 hours.
May I ask a question? When you talk about adults, these kids are basically like 18, 19 years old, right?
Yeah, these are, I call them young adults, we have had adults. We had one lady who always wanted to do beauty school, and this was her 50th birthday present to herself. She came in and she finished it. It takes about a year and a half for an outside adult to come in and start to go full day, because we don't get 8 hours a day like a private school does. A private school, they can get 8 hours a day and finish in 8 months. But if they just want to, get a couple hours and still be able to go work or raise a family at night, it's a way for them to come in while their children are in school and get their own education as well. Okay, thank you.
We're talking about the Rams, as I talked with the superintendent over at Pennridge, and I think I spoke with you as well, that your students should be held back, and they should, it was not a problem with holding any of the cosmetology students especially
Right.
back so they would get their hours.
Some of them were having problems, like the last Rams Day, it's not coming up, and I can't remember, it's Ed something, it's not Ed, is it Edify? Whatever the program is that the students have to log into, some of them actually have problems logging into it, so I told them they needed to go to the high school to get that rectified and get it fixed, so that they can come over, because I know like the last one, over half of them, it didn't come up on them, for them as being able to come over. There's been a different problem, some of them have got it fixed, some of them still haven't gotten it fixed, and some of them are taking advantage of doing that.
So you're saying they can
Opt out.
opt into that instead of opt into coming here?
As long as it's not a homeroom day. If it's a homeroom day, it's not an option, they have to stay at the high school.
So
But if it's a Rams day, then they can come over.
Well, there's an RA day and there's a MA and an MA or something. Something like that.
Yeah,
And one's, because we've had this conversation.
right,
One is optional for them to come if they want, and the other one is mandatory that they stay back.
right.
And the Rams days now they don't have to stay at Pennridge, that Dr. Bolden will arrange transportation for those kids to get back, especially these cosmetology.
But it's a
students,
logistics nightmare.
because of the hours.
So for the sake of 6 of the 9 board members and the transparency to everybody listening, what is Rams Day?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here.
It is when the superintendent of Quakertown walks around with RAM on his iPhone because he lost the turkey ball.
So it's a day for the kids to catch up, whether they need math help, they can go during that Rams period and get help. Or it's a time for like their groups, clubs to meet, and those are the optional days. And
So
then
like
there's
on
some
seat
mandatory
day,
days.
between this time and this time, there's like an open period or something?
Yeah.
School should be year round.
No, I think it's just in the morning,
So how does that help?
With the parents.
but they lose a lot, of hours coming. I did the math, we did the math, and they lose about an hour hour and a half in the morning and 45 minutes in the afternoon.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's not quite that, I don't have my paper in front of me, but it's easily 45 minutes in the morning.
Well,
I know it was over an hour in the morning.
I can tell you because I watch the buses come in. On those late days, Pennridge is usually here by 10 after 9 in the morning.
Right,
And
so
then,
an hour.
and they're not here till about 11:35, and then once they get here, they have to eat their lunch. So they're not in their classrooms until about noon.
Right, and they make,
Right.
the disruption, then
Right.
everybody gets off work, and then by the time they actually get to work, they've lost probably equal
Yes.
time.
And,
Yes.
It's about an hour and 15, hour and a half.
and also in her defense, especially like today, we had a 2-hour delay. The Quakertown morning kids do not come here. So those girls are losing 2 hours.
So
2.5
We
hours.
have a year that we have a lot of 2-hour delays, and Quakertown doesn't come over. If they start in 10th grade, they have a hard time making it, and then they typically in the past come here the next fall, and unfortunately they've had to pay, even though they're not in charge of the weather, but they've had to pay to come here to finish their hours, because they can just pick up right where they left off. They pay for the amount of hours that's needed, and then they can exit and go. Where a private school, they have a contract, they go from this date to this date and pay this much money, whether it's over the required allotted hours or not.
And if I'm not mistaken, they choose, they can come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it used to be like $40 a session, $20 a session,
It's
$40.
$30 a session and $60 a
Okay,
day.
so it went up a little bit
Yeah.
from when I was here.
Yeah, it went up several years ago so that we could be more competitive with other schools around.
But they could say, I only need 45 hours and only
Mm-hmm.
pay to be here for those 45 hours instead of a full year in cosmetology. I got that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you were saying the Rams thing, they're, like, coming here isn't showing up as an option when they log in, and so they can't opt into that? Is that?
Yeah, some of them seem to be having problems with that, but I told them they need to take it back to the high school.
And so they're following up with guidance or the
Who, what,
school
yeah.
administration and trying to get that fixed? so that
Yes,
it becomes- okay.
yes, and I have had a couple that have had it fixed, but there's still a couple more, this last one, that theirs still is not fixed. So they're working, probably won't get fixed now until after the holiday at this point, obviously, but.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we've been working with that since Mr. Sueda did make us aware that this was an option, because we said the girls were having problems, you know, coming over, like, people just didn't seem to know, like, we're told they can sign up to come up, but nobody can figure out where to sign up. But it's on this computer program, so.
Dr. Bolden and I had a long discussion about this, back when I first asked you about it, you were like, oh my goodness, yes. And he didn't realize how much time we were actually losing
Right.
when it wasn't like on paper. I was like, we're losing a lot more. And then I showed him everything, he's like, oh. So then we were working toward fixing it.
Right. So my comment is just think about those kinds of things with abolishing the adults in the secondary program, because it can be a detriment. Like I said, we haven't used it for a couple of years, but we have used it a good bit over the last 14 years.
And your class isn't the only one that collects hours, dental collects hours?
Dental and healthcare careers also collect hours.
They as well have to have hours, so she's not the only class, just so everybody's in there.
But technically, you're speaking as a proxy for those classes as well, who might
Yeah.
have students in that same situation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Of course, we have an executive session. Right now, we will recognize December Student of the Month, Dana Beck. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mr. Gentilezza. I'm our supervisor in career tech education, and I am hereby honoring Dana Beck, our December Student of the Month, that she so excellently made herself as well from graphics communications. It's hanging up there. It's all throughout the building. Excellent work. So, Dana Beck is a daughter of Jeff and Tammy Beck. Is a senior from Pennridge High School, enrolled in Mr. Chuck Kohler's graphic communications program here at Upper Bucks County Technical School. Dana goes above and beyond in her classroom and out in the community. She is a graphic designer at Winterberry Tree Farm, a member of the Pennridge High School marching band, and sings for the church choir at Hilltown Baptist Church. During her free time, Dana enjoys listening to music and playing the piano. Her future plans are to attend Bucks County Community College and then transfer to Cairn University, majoring in graphic design. Dana, on behalf of myself, the administrative team, and the staff here at Upper Bucks County Technical School, congratulations and best of luck on your future endeavors.
So Dana, on behalf of the administration and the JOC, we want to present you with the Student of the Month plaque. Congratulations, great work.
Congratulations.
Before you go, can you explain what these two books are? And I don't know if Mr. Kohler wants to say anything, the instructor.
I'll help hold them. This is their most recent.
Yeah. So these are my portfolios that I made in class. They're just filled with a bunch of projects that I did throughout the years. Personal projects and projects that I had to do for class. There's also tests and different awards that I got throughout the years in both of these. That's my sophomore and freshman year portfolio. This is my junior and senior year portfolio. So, yeah. And they get very big very quickly.
If the students are like Dana, they get really thick like this. One of the things I wanted to say in regard to Dana, other than her being a wonderful student in my class, is that she assists in the student activity account as the treasurer, and that can get to be pretty hectic after a while, but she has done it for a couple of years now. And also she assists some of the other kids whenever they need help, and I'm tied up with some of the other guys or ladies. The main reason why I worked to get this particular meeting is she has done some of the most outstanding greeting cards that we've had done here. And every fall, we start doing the greeting cards. Obviously, they don't have to do a Christmas card. They can do a birthday card, whatever. She has some outstanding greeting cards in here, so perhaps we can hook her up with Hallmark later on.
That's great.
Parents up there? All the parents, get there for a picture with the team.
Yeah. We got a picture of this thing.
Thank you.
Every time I walk in, she hides because she knows I'm gonna ask her to do something.
She does the same thing.
Something in common.
Pass one of those bikers around, will they?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
This one around that sign?
Jeff, director of sport, whenever you're ready. I don't mean to rush you, I know you want to, I saw you going, go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll get right into it. We're gonna showcase graphic communications, graphic arts. Mr. Kohler, come on up.
Sorry. Over the last 5 months, I've had the pleasure of introducing several world-class instructors who've left their mark on local, state, even national levels in career tech ed. Tonight, I'm honoring a legendary instructor who has dedicated his heart and soul to UBCTS as a student, instructor, parent, mentor, and dedicated community member. Mr. Kohler is homegrown. He became interested in the printing technology industry as a 9th grader in civics class at Quakertown High School. Mr. Kohler was interested in newspapers, especially becoming a sports writer, but also having a strong drive in understanding how publications were created and produced. UBCTS definitely lucked out as he chose the latter as his career path. His career path included both training and education. His training began at UBCTS, where he now teaches graphic communications. He completed a 3-year course, enrolling in the cooperative education program in the last semester of his senior year at Sellersville Printing. As a true entrepreneur, he also created a home business in his home throughout that time as well. He was then hired by Moore Business Forms, now R. Donnelly in Quakertown, where he worked for 2 years until he purchased the business, the printing business, in Sellersville. So that's great. Mr. Kohler is well-respected among the business community, administration, and his peers at UBCTS and throughout the state. Mr. Kohler should be commended for his numerous community service and extended classroom work-based projects, as evident by just those 2 among many portfolios. These opportunities are bedded in his program as a true production shop. And not only is he teaching the curriculum, but he's producing a lot of material for schools, community members, etc. They say a picture counts at like 1,000 words, so as you begin to go through all of those portfolios, it's a testament to what he provides to the community. Kohler students continue to excel on the NACI, the end of competency assessment. He's obtained print ed certification, which is no easy task. That accreditation is only given to those programs of the highest caliber. He enjoys working with all students, especially those that are motivated and enjoying the industry, like Dana and her sister. And I think probably we've estimated he's had about 1,200 students that have went through his program. He's worked in the printing industry for 45 years. Fun facts, and I'll finish with Mr. Kohler. He's in his 33rd year as an educator at UBCTS. We chant 10 more, 10 more. He looks at us like we're crazy.
So does his wife.
He's coached for Pennridge Little League and Pennridge Connie Mack baseball for 10 years. He's been a lifelong Phillies and Eagles fan. His bucket list includes attending a Major League Baseball game in every stadium. So far, he's been to over half the stadiums. It helps that you're a travel agent and you got to get him through the rest of those stadiums. Both Patty and Mr. Kohler have 3 grown sons who's graduated from Pennridge and 4 grandchildren. She is here tonight. If you could please stand and to support him as she has 33 years here and beyond. And we truly appreciate all of your support over the years. It's great seeing you at the award ceremonies and cheering your students on. So going from Quakertown and being a Pennridge grad and ingrained in the community, we thank you for all that you've done for the school and community. Thank you.
Now you might have to say something.
Okay, so I shall, and I'll hang out with these guys. Take a picture. I shall fill everybody in. I've been coming to this school for 36 years, 3 as a student, 33 as a teacher, and I began my printing career at home in Spinnerstown in my mom's laundry room. I was big enough to put a printing press in. I was 15, and it was the year before I came to the class here. If anybody knows Tom Pivnichny, he was my teacher at that time in printing and really got me interested in the printing industry. I didn't become a sports writer because in civics class we had to write down what they make, and sports writers were really low paid back then. So I figured I got to find something I can probably make some money in. So I went to the printing industry, and it's been, I'm actually, after totaling them up, this is my 50th year in the printing industry since I started when I was 15, 16 years old. So it's been a long trip. Seen a lot of different changes in the industry, and I tried to have made them here. It's worked out pretty good, especially since I had 3 students whose parents attended my class, okay? And that's why I won't go that many more years, because I don't need a grandchild. So it's been very rewarding. It would have been the only change I would have even contemplated. Changing would have been as far as owning my own business compared to teaching. It's very rewarding. I go back to my coaching experience, that's what kind of told me that you could do this. So I enjoyed that so much, and it's always great. I'm not going to lie and say every day's peachy, right, Dana? She knows. She's there. She's in the trenches with me, and sometimes just shakes her head when I'm having a difficult day. But she's awesome. Her sister was great too in the class. It's been a pleasure having the Beck daughters in my class for 7 years, and it will be at the end in a row, and that was made my last 7 years much easier, actually. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. 10 more.
I put it.
Alrighty, let's go into the donation report. we have a 4.8 Acme FS 2750 transformers, 3 Leeson 1/3 horsepower motors, 1 Leeson 2 horsepower motor, and 1 mini mover conveyor from Jeffrey Van Clausen for $3,800 donated to the mechatronics program. Palisades Community Foundation gave us a sponsorship of a $3,000 sponsorship cash for the food truck sponsors. So that was very, very generous of the Palisades Community Foundation, and we really appreciate it. Breakfast with Santa, we had over 200 attendees last weekend, which is awesome. Carpentry, you know, I want to give a shout out to my carpentry teacher, Caleb. They are re-siding the red barn up there. If you haven't noticed, when I first arrived here, I have no idea what a barn's supposed to look like, so I went to the barn guru, Mr. Hallowell, and asked him if he could walk up and explain to me if this is safe or not, and he's like, well, category 8 is, it's not gonna knock this barn down. But the siding is pretty bad, so we're taking the T111 off and replacing it because they're painting it. It's gonna really look sharp when they're done. So they're doing a great job. I want to thank the Agriculture Bioscience Program. We had a little mishap last night with the storm that blew through. The greenhouse shut down, and the poinsettias died.
Oh, no.
Every one of them. So I'm sad to say that the poinsettias were standing tall, and they were beautiful the day before. I walked back there, and we went in today, and they're gone.
Did we lose electric?
We lost electric, and then it came back on, and then it shut the heat down. So, but on the bright side, what did George tell you, Mike? On the bright side, he
It was
said.
bad that they didn't survive, but the good news is they look great
They look
before
good.
that happened.
Before that. Before that.
Are we, do we have something to back up?
Oh, yeah. There's backups. It runs off of the propane tank, and I guess the system just shut it down. When power shuts off, the generator didn't kick it on, and it just stayed on. And
It was cold.
It was cold. I mean, it really dropped yesterday. I mean, from being in the 40s to down in the teens in a short amount of time. So, but you know, baking had made you some nice treats, so you guys will be able to enjoy those. Blood drive, it was capacity for the first time in a while. Mr. Gale was, you know, instrumental in all of our instructors as well. We had it, you know, we were full boat, so that was great. Upcoming farm shows coming up January 6th through the 10th, where we have some students that are receiving some awards on the 6th. We sent invites. I know some board members are going down. I know Quakertown is sending a couple buses load full of students to go down. All of our animal tech and our bioscience students will make it a trip down at one point or another. So it's a fun event. I have to get there. I haven't gone, but I'm hoping to get there this year.
We're going on Monday's a big day for us. One of the things that I learned through reading the thousands of emails that come out every month from PDE, that there's a grant program for, they pay up to $1,000 a school for transportation to take students to the farm show, plus the state code, the PDE's code, the State Board of Education code says that students can miss school and it's not considered as an absence, it's an excused absence. So we're taking out elementary school students from Quakertown Elementary in Richland, I think. We're taking out students that aspire to our new ag program, and others that from middle school, 8th grade middle school. And I hope you all go at least in the near, in sometime 6th is a big day for us, for when, probably the Monday of the farm show week is when tech school board members go down.
Yeah, that's the, yeah. But there's a lot going on.
It's a phenomenal expo. And the food.
And the food, yeah.
Milkshakes. Have you been there?
But there's lots of Dutch, like, you know, fried stuff.
It's the first full week of January. It starts on Saturday and it goes through the end of the next week. It starts on the 4th, I think, right? And then, but the big, times when our students compete, like last year, our pig took #1.
Yeah, grand champion.
And it was grand champion. That's the first couple days of their work week.
So I can bring my second grader down and you won't mark her absent?
That's a fact, sir.
All right.
So hopefully we can, we'll have a good representation down there, and we'll see if we can bring that grand champion trophy back. I've been checking our, they used to be piglets, but now they're full-grown animals up there, snorting away, and they're pretty sick. So I stay away.
Throw the carrots now.
That's what I do, I throw my carrots, I take them on carrots every now and then, but, they're doing a great job. Last week, we had our auto body program and our small engine program go out to Carson Helicopter for a visit. They had a great visit out there. They saw a lot of military helicopters in the hangar that are being rebuilt for the military. Mr. Carson was telling us a story where there was a helicopter that was over in Afghanistan, rebuilt by him, and they stamped every one of the helicopters that they rebuilt, and he saw a picture of it. And he zoomed in on that picture, and it was one of his helicopters. So he was pretty excited about that. And the kids, they were fabulous, they were well-behaved, and they really enjoyed that type of stuff. And last is the UBCC Foundation Workforce Student Scholarship for a week-long camp. Do you have anything on that?
That is with the Upper Bucks Chamber of Commerce Foundation. It's a 501c3. I happen to chair it, just that.
Pure happenstance.
Yeah, exactly. This year, what we did is we typically put together funds for 2 students out of the 3 ascending school districts. This year, the board decided to offer it to the VOTEC school. It's a really interesting, dynamic, 5 days, and in Penn State, we pay for the tuition. The student has to pay for his travel time out there, plus they pay for the room and board. But it's a great program to have young people learn what it is to be an entrepreneur. I really thought it was very important that we offered it to the tech school, because the students that are here eventually will go out on their own, either to work for somebody or do their own business, but to have this experience is just phenomenal. And we've had sessions every year in the fall after they come back, and they make a report, and every one of the students that have been involved with this program just raves about it. So I think it's really important. This is the first time we've offered it to students at VOTEC, so I think it's a great thing. Hopefully we can carry it forward. The funds are raised through foodie, the Upper Bucks Chamber of Foodie. It's a program where you have different vendors come in. The funds come from that, and they supply the foundation. So.
Well, Mr. Bob, if you would extend our gratitude from the JOC.
I'll keep forth that.
And that's conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go into committee reports. Facilities Committee.
Yeah, we were relegated to the fishbowl. There were 4 items that we discussed. 3 were kind of perfunctory, but one of them, we talked about the film crew that spent 2 weekends filming here, and that the horticulture building, the renovation or the building of the horticulture building has begun. And Bill's budget, which he says is the same as last year, right, no change. However, there was one issue that we discussed pretty intensively about the cleaning, interstate cleaning. And there are a few things
in the works that we're doing, for example, letters going out to them tomorrow, and you're meeting with the CEO tomorrow. Apparently, there are problems concerning this cleaning service. And there was a lot of stuff that we discussed, but this is basically what it is, as we speak, it's being taken care of.
It's being worked on. Hopefully taken care of. Well, thank you all.
And he also is planning on coming, the CEO, I guess,
Tomorrow.
is also coming in January to
Oh,
our
right, to
meeting.
our board meeting.
I'm not exactly sure of his title. I don't know if it's the CEO, but
What's that?
I'm gonna correct you. I'm not sure if it's the CEO of his title. I know his name, I'm not sure of his title.
Whatever he is, he's on the chopping.
But yeah,
It was the guy that came here and spoke to us.
Yeah.
He's the owner.
He says
He's the owner.
I believe he said he was the owner.
Yeah, he's the owner.
Whether his title is CEO or not, yeah, I get it. But he's the owner. He's the
That was
top man.
before me, who came here, I'm not sure. The gentleman is coming, and I know his name, but I don't know his position. He's up there on the ladder, put it that way.
Knock him off.
Does that conclude your report, Mr.
And
Finn?
that includes
Finance Committee report, please. Whoever is inclined.
I guess that could be me. We discussed the annual audit, and Ms. Free is here. If anyone has any questions, we got a nice book, audit book with all the numbers in. I haven't had a chance to really peruse it, but it came out as a good, clean audit.
And what was your name? I'm sorry.
Sherry Free.
Ms. Freed, we asked Ms. Freed to hang out for public comment in case anybody had any questions, and of course, after this, you're welcome to leave.
Okay, thank you. I mean, if you'd like, I can just do a quick, real brief.
Sure, that would be great if you could do for the council.
Yeah, I just want to point out, as, you know, I did an in-depth discussion of the audit to the Finance Committee earlier. I'm just pointing out that our report came out with a clean opinion, which means that there were no significant or material audit findings or errors. Our opinion letter basically says that the financial statements are materially correct, and I just want to clarify, materiality comes into play in doing our opinion, so there could be some errors in here. We did not detect errors. We look at everything on a sample basis, and if there is, we look at everything over a certain dollar amount. Materiality based on your size is probably around $60,000, so we don't look at transactions necessarily. We do it on a random basis. Under that amount, over that amount, we get 80 to 90% coverage for all revenue and all expenses by testing it that way. And I'm happy to say you had a clean opinion, you outperformed your budget, and I want to commend Teresa again and management for all the hard work they put into getting it to a point where we were able to audit. The records were challenging, stepping into that unknown, incomplete records, and we appreciate all the work that management and Teresa did to get those records auditable. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. It was a clean opinion, yes. Okay, I'm going home and wrapping presents now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Actuarial contract.
Well, all you gotta do is take the $25,000 stuff and they don't catch it.
Not to exceed it, and that will be for evaluation services for other post-employee benefits.
And if we are resolved on Finance Committee report?
Yes.
And moving on to the Policy and Programs Committee report.
Okay, we discussed 5 items. One of them was Manufacturing Day 2019. UBCTS students were featured in a national video promotion. We want to thank Stephen Mond and Demco Automation, who helped put that together, and for their continued support, along with 325,000 other students, teachers, and parents, and more than 3,000 events around the country. Policies, We are putting together the infrastructure. I had a conversation with Mrs. Malamis at the IU on how to best present that to the board, and we look to begin that process next month. The NOCD Continuous Improvement Plan, Perkins 5, which is where we get our federal funding from, requires a continuous improvement model in all of our programs. Our instructors are continuing to meet during the day, rather than just that one and done professional development. We believe it's best that it's job embedded, ongoing, sustainable. Todd Luke, our facilitator, and myself submitted a proposal to present an article, and we were selected as a feature potential in the March Association for Career and Tech Ed. We submitted a draft for that. We believe that'll bring recognition to our wonderful staff and what we're doing here. We think it's a benefit to the CTE community. OSHA Alliance and Partnership, we value that immensely. Scott Skravanik and OSHA really help our curriculum. They were instrumental in our students winning the inaugural Associated Builders and Contractors. If Vince was here, he would get very upset with me. Contest, and it's a little wonder why they scored a perfect score on the competition with their assistants. And then we finished with the discussion on abolishing policy 125, adults in the secondary program, as recommended by the 3 sending school superintendents due to safety concerns and historic low enrollment over the last few years in those areas. One question brought up by the committee was whether or not the students currently in the programs can be grandfathered in and continue and finish. And that was the
Moving on to the consent calendar agenda, which will include the November minutes, December bills payable, November financial reports, and personal recommendations. Motion to approve the consent calendar, number 6 as presented. Discussion. All in favor of the consent calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Number 7, moving on to a motion to secure a bond in the amount of $75,000 for an individual appointed or elected to the position of treasurer for the JOC, Ms. Megan Bannis Clemens. Can I get a motion? Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to number 8, policy. We're going to revise policy. Let me read this for a minute because I didn't review it previous to our meeting. Excuse me. Did we read this last month? No. This is what we, all right. Motion to approve policy 616, payment of bills as distributed in November and recommended by the Finance Committee and Policy Program Committee for us to review over this last month. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Skills USA District 11 petitions. Motion to pay expenses for students going to the districts on January 29th, 2020, with a snow day of January 30th, 2020. 2 buses will be used to transport students to the Allentown Agriplex and then to the Parkland High School. Motion to approve the agenda item.
Second.
Discussion.
Good question. And I think this happened last year. So what happens if we end up with both those days being snowed out?
It's very bad.
The executive director of the Lehigh Valley Skills and the directors have been crossing our fingers and hoping that it doesn't happen. So we're hoping if there is one and there happens to be another, then it's going to end up breaking into different areas. We won't be the agriplex, we'll be at certain sites, so we'll be traveling like we did last year, to different schools or different sites all over the place. We'll, instead of taking 2 nice buses with everybody on it, we'll be taking vans everywhere and try to get the competition in before the state deadline. Because we need to run the competition no matter what, but it won't be at the agriplex. And then, and if there is a delay, if there's a snow delay on either one of those days, we won't be going to Parkland for the awards. We'll be coming back to the schools, and what we did is we did it on Zoom last year, and I had all the students in the cafeteria here, and they awarded the students their awards through Zoom. So, we have a couple of different backup plans and scenarios. We don't want to go there. You know, we want to just go right through and get it done. So, but yeah, there is, you know, we've gone to different sites throughout the Lehigh and Bucks County.
I'll just say that I've been trying to get to them, and I can't remember more than this last time, they weren't able to have it there. But,
Yeah. Those are the 2 days that, you know, that we reserve, and we have to pay for the area, so, if it goes beyond those 2 days, then we're on our own.
As long as you stay in budget. Zoom's free, right?
Well, it has there's a breakdown. The cost of the total cost of upper bucks will be $2,970, and the rest of it, the $3,210 comes out of the Skills USA Student Activity Fund for a total cost of $6,180 for the whole district competition.
Any other discussion before we vote?
The cost to shuttle students between locations, wouldn't that just be involved in the bus cost? Like, isn't it our buses that take them?
No, it's
Or the buses that take them?
multiple different buses because,
Or like a bus provided by the agri-complex, like if this group is done, they shuttle them over?
it's
Literally a big bus, though.
yeah, it's
We
all,
already paid for the bus up here, I didn't know what this was.
they're vans. Vans, and once our buses get there, they drop them off, they come back and they pick them up at the end of the day at Market. And different competitions, they have competitions all throughout the day, so you might have someone competing during the day, they walk around the agriplex, and then they'll get on the bus and go to the park, and vice versa. So there's multiple, the transportation, and again, it's Katie Walters, she's phenomenal, she's the executive director. It's probably a nightmare that I don't want to look at.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 10, motion to approve the designation of equipment listed as obsolete and approval for its sale or disposal. 2003 Chevy Malibu from the Automotive Technology Department. This vehicle does not run and an instructional purpose due to the age are not needed. Also 2005 Land Rover Freeland. It's also from the Automotive Technology Department. The vehicle does not run and instructional purposes due to the age are not needed. All in favor? Or, excuse me, motion to approve discussion.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda number 11, approval to renew the GASB 75 valuation and related service agreement with the Pennsylvania Trust for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2020 and 2021 in the amount not to exceed $3,550.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
This is for the investments, right?
No, that's for the actual, that's the OPEB bit. Other.
Oh, that's what this is. I know, okay.
What is it?
So it is to meet GASB 75 regulations, so they actually see your employees that are allowed to stay on our health insurance until after they're up to the age of 65, they have to give an evaluation service for that. It's part of the audited financial statement.
Can you repeat that one more time?
It's other.
Other post-employment benefits. So employees are permitted to stay on our health insurance up to the age of 65, so there's a valuation for that.
Ex-employees are permitted to stay
Retired.
on the plan up until age 65. So like Cobra goes indefinitely until you don't want to pay for the Cobra anymore, essentially, would be my translation of this. And so what happens when we go to change carriers or shop carriers and we got like 5 people on there that have been on there for 10 years?
Well, they come over, they move on to their next insurance. So there's like, you just have to,
As a retirement benefit.
I think it's like a requirement.
They pay the full premium, they simply get the benefit of a lower premium rate because it's a group rate.
Hopefully.
Right.
Okay. And you're suggesting that we pass this, of course? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Motion to approve a resolution to authorize and direct John J. Suida, Executive Director, to sign PennDOT updated safety inspector certification and recertification training program performance agreement as required for continued participation in this PennDOT program, currently offered at our adult education program. Motion to approve, discussion. Second. Discussion. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 13 on the agenda, motion to approve a resolution to authorize and direct John J. Suida, Executive Director. No, this is all right. To sign PennDOT's updated emissions inspector certification, the EIC, and recertification, EIR, training program performance agreement, as required for continued participation in this PennDOT program, currently offered via our adult education program. Motion for discussion.
Can he inspect your car?
Discussion. All in favor?
No, this is for
All
teach, I
opposed?
think. This is so that they can
Motion
use the
passes
inspection,
unanimously.
inspection class.
We are coming up to agenda item number 14. I'm going to make a motion to table this policy until we can have additional conversation on the subject due to some of the information that we discussed today in regards to maybe some alternative consequences that might happen if we pass this on the fly here. Do we have to vote on tabling it amongst?
You do, but there is no discussion on the motion to table.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is, agenda item number 14 has now been tabled.
May we have a discussion?
Uh,
After you throw it on the table.
You can, although I would wait, I think, until JOC concerns.
Okay, because we'll
Is that
go
okay?
for guidance.
Sure, we'll talk about it open,
Thank you.
in case I forget, remind me.
Yes, sir, okay.
Enroll track agreement, moving on to agenda number 15. Motion to approve an agreement with Enroll Track for an online student enrollment in the amount of $67.65, which includes basic customization and setup to be billed in December 2019, and $4,740 annually for hosting and maintenance to be billed on July 1st, pending solicitor review and approval. Motion for discussion.
So moved. Second.
All right, the item number 15 is open for discussion.
It's a new, we want to incorporate an online application process for Upper Bucks County Public Schools. Right now, there's a paper application, and the guidance counselors, all 3 Southern District guidance counselors want us to get rid of that paper application because it's too complicated. So this online application will come directly to us. We will be able to fill all of our seats when the process is out there and the students and the parents are filling the application. They come to us, and then we go back to the guidance counselors at the sending districts, and they say that, you know, Jeff Sweeter has applied to, you know, as a 9th grader to come into your HVAC program. We're going to do that for every one of the students. We feel as an organization that we're losing a lot of students. You know, one way or another, misplaced application, not knowing what's going on. So if it's an online application, you know, they're gonna, you know, we're gonna send out blasts. We have a full, a brand new on-call system that we can, you know, send out to all the parents, explain to them what the process will be. My guidance counselors are gonna go out and speak to future students on the process and to the other setting district guidance counselors to walk them through the process. We feel that as we do this, we will eliminate some of the phone calls that we get from the sending district saying, Morgan, I have a student and I see you have an opening in machine shop. Let's put them in there. To me, that's not a placement. We're doing a disservice to those students. We want to have on the application, we want to have an interest survey. You know, and we develop clusters. And in our clusters, you have the construction cluster. So the student takes this interest survey and he or she fills out the interest survey, and then all the arrows are pointing to the construction cluster. They will be able to pick and choose out of those 4 different classes in the construction cluster, instead of having someone call and say, hey, I see you have an opening, let's put them in there, and let's see how it works. That's too late. I mean, that's not how we want it to work. We want it to work where they have all the interest and they get put and placed in the correct programs so they become successful. We haven't, you know, we accept the applications, we accept them all. We've accepted them all from the past, we accept them all now, but it's going to be easier. And not only that, I have the 3 superintendents that are going to open up IEP Writer that let our special ed instructors work in the beginning of the year, and they will know when we have the enrollment of the student, which students have IEPs, and they'll be able to start tracking those students ASAP instead of now 2 months into the school, which, you know, they get overwhelmed. So we're trying to make the whole process, you know, one, there's never been a process set in place, and we feel that this is going to help us with enrollment and to fill our programs. Right now, we're at about 90% capacity. So, you know, we're not that far away. We're talking about 2 new programs in the future. So I think this is going to help us, you know, grasp those students that may have gone through high school, and then at the end of the senior years, they're just saying, I should have come, or I should have gone to the upper box.
So, I don't mean to cut you off, but are you proposing that we add this in addition? Like, do we want the enrollment process to be more well-rounded and offer an electronic enrollment option, or completely eliminate the paper application?
To eliminate the paper application completely.
Not sure
Mike
that's
could help me out, he
great.
was with the guidance counselors, and they don't like it.
They asked us to remove it because it was confusing for them, so we
The
mentioned.
paper application?
Yeah, because they were bringing the paper application to the counselors or us, and they were getting lost in the shuffle. So at the counselor breakfast, they asked me to take it off the website, because there was not a process or a process in place.
I think there needs to be more than one enrollment method. I mean, not everybody has computer access or internet access necessarily. There are people that may have disabilities that don't allow them to do it on a computer to some capacity, and we need to be.
All of our, no disrespect, all of our schools, you know, offer computers to every one of our students, K through 12.
That's not true necessarily, but I know as your.
If I may. Over the last couple of months, Mike and Jan Rubin, one of the guidance counselors here, is coming to the superintendent's meeting with a proposal, and we have, all 3 of us, Bridget and David, have been very outspoken about kids who don't get it in on time, kids who don't have access, kids who have IEPs. So their system has been troubleshooted, and at this point, we feel comfortable that what the system that they want to put into place is a good system, that the students will get, our students get their first shot, optimal best shot, and first shot at what they want to do. Again, there has been some concern from the different sending districts, at least from the superintendent level. I did not attend the guidance meeting, but at the assistant superintendent level and at the superintendent level, there's a concern about students being placed in the wrong program and not given the opportunity to go to a program they like to have. this is a significant placement for high school students, that are students with disabilities.
This is a placement questionnaire to help them decide which class they want to take at tech school. I think I'm having trouble understanding exactly what the purpose of the application is.
They have a ambiance, is it called?
We have Naviance.
Naviance, in the lower levels that they should be taking to let them understand what their interest may be, to get into or what their interest would be if they would come to the current tech center. Our main concern is they'll take the interest survey and there won't be any more shuffling of paper, there won't be any more misplacements of paper, when you have 50 or 60 students as seniors that aren't going to college, aren't going into the military, aren't trained as a tradesperson, just floundering out there. I feel as though we're missing a huge population of students that, it's the wave of the future. You fill out an application for college, it's online. You fill out an application for a job, it's online. You go online, you fill out an application, it's online. Everything's online.
Do an application.
Right. I mean, there's no more. The paper's going away. I mean,
It's creating a system where we haven't had a very specific system.
So none of the sending districts, or the social workers of those districts, or the, guidance counselors of those districts have a problem with this online.
So,
Still go through the guidance offices.
Oh, very much.
yes.
MPL, we want to make sure all of our underserved populations have access to the quality programs that we have here. And that's been a major initiative in professional development, so we want to make sure that there's no barriers for the students to come to our school.
Have the guidance counselors in the sending districts and here had a chance to review this and give it?
Yes, sir. They had a team meeting from all sending districts.
so would this be a first come, first served enrollment?
No.
So there would be a deadline?
Yes.
And then how do you decide which kids get?
That was one of our concerns, the deadline and the student who doesn't make the deadline
Right.
because they don't have access or they have a disability. So those are the things, the stopgaps that the superintendents all brought up. And we've been assured that with the system here, that all students will have a shot at what they want, first choice.
So it's
And
not
what do they get?
automatically, when they fill out an application, plugging them into a spot, and then once those spots are filled, someone else is going to fill those spots? My understanding is because like, we get 30 extra kids a year in animal science. It was always a lottery for those who are entering, so they would probably, like, kind of like bingo, you get in, and then.
It did go back to actually first come, first served on who put the application, but it's also limited to the slots per district. And then recently, some of the districts made comments like, because of 339, that there should be a bio requirement. What this would do is it would give us total control of being able to report back to you with quantifiable data to say how many kids applied, when they applied. Perkins 5 has asked us to track admissions and retention of students. This would allow us to do that. We will know how many applications come in at points, December, February, April. So it's not just a first come, first served, but we would say within 3 months, we're going to be beginning to review those. So it's not just first come, first served, because we want to make sure that the kids are in the right program with their aptitude and their interest and their skill level. We are working, there's a Strengthening Career Act that's proposed by a representative in Pennsylvania that we believe strongly in about career counseling. We're glad to hear that all of your districts are starting it earlier and earlier and putting the clusters. We're having the teachers come in, the middle school, the STEM teachers, so they're aware of it. So it's outreach, and we want to make sure all of those things are addressed.
So did you compare and contrast this company to other companies out there that do the same thing?
Yes.
And is there like a financial, did you do a cost analysis of that, a quality analysis of that? Are there other options that we can see? Do you have references for people who have used this company who say that they, have had success with it?
We have, and good point by Mr. Linden. We've done our due diligence, myself and the two counselors. of looking at best practices, specifically with this program. We compared it to a competitor. As a matter of fact, they came in lower than the original cost. We went back to this company, Enrollment, and we told them that, and they significantly reduced their cost. So we were,
So this company originally bid higher than the other company, and then when you told them, they gave you a lower price to beat the other company?
it wasn't a bid, but the answer is yes.
So did you go back to the company who started
I
out the
knew
lowest?
that one there.
And say, hey, these people just beat you? I mean, they started out the lowest, is what you're saying, the other company.
And the quality from our counselors and our team that reviewed it was such that this was far superior, and we really believe that this would be best for our school and our students and our sending districts, because we also presented it to them. And so we were glad that this company lowered the price, because we believe they had a better product.
Can you tell me what's better about it? What is superior about this product compared to the other? And so you only compared to one competitor, so we don't have any idea if there's others out there? We didn't try to put out, put out the different
niche
companies?
market.
Well, it wasn't just one. We looked at best practices, we looked at sending schools, what they use, is it online, and et cetera. So that's where we came up with one of the competitors that I don't want to mention the name. And,
Why?
oh, I guess we can, it's legal.
Yeah.
SurveyMonkey was the next competitor. And so we've had some people that had some concerns with them in the past from different areas in the school. But they came in at a lower price. So we went back to the other company and we asked for them.
You said there were multiple, so there are many different companies?
No, just two. We were interested in two companies, Enrollment and SurveyMonkey.
But did you research others before getting down to that too?
Yeah, we didn't find any others.
Oh, I think that was the.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I had a little concern with what was your name? I'm sorry. Bob brought up before that this is it's a sole proprietorship company. My business that I have, we had a company called Draker Labs that monitor our solar array on our building. They went out of business, left us high and dry. We then had to spend $20,000 to buy new equipment so another company could come in and monitor our solar. And it is something that could come up. You know, you could get well invested in this, and if this goes away, if it's just one person owning a company, writing the software and maintaining it, then you could be stuck. You know, does that play into how you choose who to enter into a contract with as well?
Our solicitor reviews all contracts to make sure that those legalities and those are not satisfied.
Essentially, you'd be looking at a motion much like this one. So you'd be looking at an initial investment. Sometimes that's a bigger issue than it looks like, just looking at the numbers it would be here. You'd be looking at another initial investment, and let's assume it's roughly $7,000, and then presumably the same rough annual fee. The mechanics of it for something like this are not that challenging. When they go out of business, or if we don't like them and terminate them, replacing it with another competitor just from a technical standpoint will not be that challenging, but you would be looking at another upfront cost.
Has another VOTEC school used this program? Has it been vetted with another VOTEC school? Has someone else used it?
Yes.
And you can actually go back and say, what's your results, how do you like it, and so forth?
Yes, not in Pennsylvania, but in
Other state, another state. How many schools are involved with this? Do you know offhand?
I don't have the exact number.
Who are your reference? What schools do we have as references? You said you had references from other schools.
Yes, our counselors reach out to them. I would have to research which specific schools.
So it's not a sole proprietorship, for the record. Everybody's sitting around this table. There looks like there's multiple people that work for the company, so a concern that like they're gonna, well, of course, they could always go out of business, but like one guy kind of get hit by a bus type situation, and then we're kind of,
Wow.
you know, hey, we're a woman. What? Sorry, my bad.
You used a deer, you went over by a deer.
My point though is, you know, I don't think it's a single person company.
It's a single-person developer.
Product manager.
I'm sorry, what did you say that, so you said that this was better quality. What does this one do that the others don't do? I'm just curious.
It gives you the ability to customize it. There is a protocol in place where there's give and take between the student completing the application, it going to our counselors, there's steps in place where then it goes back to the Sandy School counselors, and it offers more bells and whistles if we feel that we need them. Then the Survey Monkey. The Survey Monkey was basically an application, but it didn't have the retaining students and collecting that data over time.
What are the other technical schools local to us doing? Like, do they still use a paper application at Middle Bucks, at Lower Bucks, Monco?
Their overall admission process is very detailed in terms of not only the policy, but the regs. It's very specific on how they select students in the program. Their timelines are earlier than ours, like Middle Bucks, et cetera. So they've been at this for, it seems like several years. They include clear interest surveys, and it's pretty comprehensive. So we're playing catch up. We believe that this online mechanism will allow us to move ahead quickly and to catch up to a number of those schools.
So those schools are already doing this, is what you're saying? They're already using this online application process?
Online, yes, but not all online, but some of them are online.
Well, I think that's what she's asking. How many of them are doing paper versus switching to this online? And if they're online, what are they using? If they're not using this company, what are they using?
They're not all using online applications, so I'm not even to answer that.
Could you just find out what the
Yes.
others around us are doing?
Of course.
One of the things, just so that we don't ask 50 million questions in this setting like this in the back and forth, one of the things that's helpful that we've done in Pennridge that they do is taking the top 3 and doing, and giving us a chart, so all this information's in there, so we can look at it and see all of the answers to our questions in a comparative chart, and then we see this is why this is the winner, and then it prevents us from asking all these questions, just a thought that might be something that's helpful in the future. But
I think that their job is to investigate this, is what you did, and bring this to us. I don't think that we have to go through this as a board.
Well, it just shows you why that's the best choice.
I think you pretty much said without saying it, like, it's our only choice. SurveyMonkey is essentially a platform where you plug in your own questions. It's SurveyMonkey,
I did a Google
Right.
search and got 5
SurveyMonkey's not customizable, really, unless.
It's really not.
It's not.
It wasn't really an option.
Put in question.
Somebody did a Google search and got 5 options. We don't know what the
Enroll
other.
track, online enrollment system, enrollment track school, orange track, K-12 online enrollment. It seems like there's more than just 1 or 2.
I do like the idea of an online.
I think it's a great
application.
concept.
I like it, but I think Mrs. Dolan had a great question about I'm just curious what our other local schools are doing, and did we compare to theirs?
It looks like Middle Bucks has I'm looking at their application process. It's an online process as well.
Does it tell you who they're using?
Click on the application, see if it's in the footer or something. Please. I'm inclined to bring this to the vote, and if it doesn't pass, then maybe we reapproach it, but I would like to see what you have to say real quick.
Oh, well, that's a good idea too, isn't it?
That would be SurveyMonkey, basically. Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
It was more expensive than.
I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it would just be interesting, because I would just hate to find out, like, shortly after this, that all the districts around us are using this same company that's.
Well, they're not necessarily using the same company, but they're all switching to online applications because they feel the same way that we do. They're losing students by going through the paper, by sending districts. And that's basically we're starting with nothing. There was nothing in the past. And now we're trying to bring it forward to make it better. So we'll be able to improve this online application as we go and present it and go forward every year. And that's what we're trying to accomplish, or establish something where students are, they know that they're gonna fill out this application, it's gonna be due on this date, you're gonna,
Forgive me. I think here's the question. This service, do they help design the questions to help point the students to the classes that we
They're gonna
offer?
design- they're
Or
gonna-
are they literally just gonna be like cut and pasting the questions that we give them and then returning us the results? Or are they basically just an interface design?
it's a give take. They'll help us customize it to our liking.
Which is similar to what we use in Panorama, that we use in parent surveys, teacher surveys, students.
Yeah, that's basically what I was thinking this was now. I thought it was a little different at first. I thought this was a specialized niche service that kind of designs these questionnaires around certain tech schools or specialty schools and helps kind of lead the student down a path as they answer these questions and go through and say, oh, you'll end up in based on the results of your test and your personality, we think maybe one of these 4 construction careers would be best for you. In a sense, that's what it's doing, but we're giving them the questions. They're not coming up with that content.
I think it does do some number crunching, I think that's really, tell me how wrong, but that's the value added you get above the survey monkey test services, it's going to track the data behind you.
It's going to track the students coming
Enrollment,
in,
retention, all that stuff.
the concentrator, and then the completer.
Can I ask a question? I read this now twice. Maybe my eyes are going, and it could be, but I don't see terms in there. I don't see whether it's a 1 year or a 2 year or.
They sent a proposal, and I haven't actually seen the contract, which is why this has the pending solicitor review and approval.
And the reason is because I'm hearing concern about whether it is, but if it ends up being a 5-year contract, we're stuck for 5 years. If it's a 1 year contract renewable for, a year from now, that would put me a lot more at ease than saying, okay, because, again, we don't have any sending districts that use it, we don't have anybody nearby that uses it. However, I want to trust that Michael and team went through the process and vetted this out, but I also don't want to get stuck with a contract for, a lemon. So I guess my question is, are we intending it to be a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? What?
It's intended to be 1 year
Okay.
and moving forward every year.
Okay. But not an evergreen, 1 year and we get an opportunity to renew,
Yes.
okay?
Month-to-month referencing.
They've been known, contractors with school districts have been known to try to throw evergreen contracts in there. Okay?
That's why we go to our solicitor.
Well, I'm looking right at it.
I got you. Yes, one of the things that I would ask is that as we create, or we need to create better systems, or the first time we've had systems and a whole bunch of different things here, look, or go to think about the business function. Last year, to get the budget right, to get other districts refunded, and like Quakertown to pick up a couple $100,000 extra to get the budget back in there, it required all the business managers, all the financial folks, I'm sure you were part of that last year, to participate, to get just the tech school's budget right. My point is, when they're out there vetting things, you're looking at the whole team. They don't have anybody else other than the folks at this table to work, except for the ladies who are admit parents and students that are coming to school. So this is the whole team that does all the research. So having something out where you're doing all kinds of research, coming up with proposals and all that kind of stuff, if we spend a lot of time doing that, beyond the due diligence they did, for example, the guidance counselors, all the guidance counselors from all the high schools came in and looked at the system and said, is this what within the ballpark of what it would be best for our kids? And they all said yes. So I would ask that, I understand that. We have a larger team back in our districts than we have here. It's just,
I agree with that, and I just want to make sure that we have a 1 or 2 year.
but that's what we got this guy to do to protect us.
Okay, if I could go split my eyes, I'd look at both of them, okay?
That's right. No, excuse me, I'm pointing at you, well, him too, but.
It always stops there.
I also think it's helpful if this stuff comes to a committee meeting, and then
Yeah.
the next month it comes to a board meeting, and then that gives time for us to ask these questions and you to bring the stuff back to us, and then by the time we get to the vote, then we have all the information and everybody can move forward. When we're doing all this in one night, you know, there's always gonna be questions about things. I think it's easier if we're doing that and it's a 2-meeting process that's not all happening in the same night. I think that's why we kind of feel like a lot of times stuff's just kind of getting
I get
Or
that, but
shove down
I
their
would-
throats.
with all that, I would ask that you understand that if it's going through the superintendents, it's gone through their vetting, it's gone through the guidance counselors, that we're betting our bars that this is the right thing to do.
Well, but.
And I'm not asking for
but if
rubber
we're-
stamp,
well,
but I'm not asking for rubber
That's
stamp.
kind of what it sounded like.
So you're saying take your word for it?
Yeah. We vetted it, so you should just.
So it is basically an initial layout for us of about $6,700 for the design and implementation. And then it's a $4,700 a year bill.
Right, but you don't want to start, you don't want to have to switch to someone else if you figure out that there's something, that's what I'm saying, you do it right the first time.
I think that's the hope that we're gonna do it
It's not
right
about
the
the
first
cost
time.
as much as the.
Any other discussion? I'm gonna bring this to a vote.
Yes. Bring it to a vote.
All right. Motion to approve an agreement, I already read that off. So all in favor to approve the agreement with Enroll Track, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Nay.
Motion passes 6-3. And I think it's nice to say that we would like a status update maybe next year, like Jeff, kind of see how this is going, if we gotta, you know.
I would still like to get the information to the other tech schools in our area and what they're doing and what companies they're using.
That was my thing, I wanted to say that I wasn't opposed to the online process application, I was opposed to
I just wanted to
seeing the other options and what our closest other schools are doing.
North Monco seems to be doing paper. I just tried to register for an adult class.
Download a PDF on your laptop.
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, we're going to move on to agenda item number 16, recognition of comments from the audience if there are any. Yes? Robert?
Robert Linden, Pennridge School District. I attend the West Rock Hill Supervisors Meeting, and following reports by their committees, the supervisors vote to give approval to the report. I notice that you don't do that. Is that a Robert's Rules thing, or just a?
Forgive me, I didn't understand the question. If you're asking me directly, I apologize.
Want me to do it again?
There's no requirement in Robert's Rules either way. In this particular system, if there's an action item recommended by the committee, it appears separately. At most supervisor meetings that you go to,
Yeah.
that motion to approve is also approving the action items that the committees came with. They're doing one in one motion.
Yeah.
So the facilities committee will actually have their facilities motions as part of their report, and the supervisors will vote to approve. Here, that it's purely informational, the committee reports, and any action items are separately listed.
Okay. And secondly, when are the minutes approved of the committees?
Because there are no action items taken, although they are advertised as open to the public.
Well, your documents say that minutes are not official until they're approved.
Right. I don't know that there are minutes out of the committee meetings when there are no action items.
Well, there's supposed to be minutes out of committee meetings.
So that's actually a discussion we had at Pennridge because they were being called minutes, but then there's no need to approve them because they're actually, we're not voting. And so they've changed to calling them notes. And so now they are the committee notes, and then those still don't get voted, you don't vote on them because you're voting on the board meeting information, so.
Basically, just like the reports that we're doing here today.
Correct.
They don't really need to be approved, they're just absorbed.
And what we discussed in our committee meetings would be in our board minutes.
Those notes will become minutes. That is correct.
And if there are any action items, they become an agenda item separately amongst themselves. I'm gonna bump Jay, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna bump JOC operating committee concerns up top so that myself and Dr. Harner can speak, and then I will do announcements and then adjournment. First, I wanna, Robert, thank you so much for all the years that you've come here and you've been recording these meetings. Ever since I've become part of this board, you've been coming, I think maybe you've only missed one meeting or two that I'm aware of over the last few years, and I just wanna thank you for your dedication to come here and help promote the transparency to the community that you do and why you come here and do this, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
In that spirit, one of the things that I ran on was transparency in my own district. Being president here, or chair of this particular JOC, one of my first action items I would like to be that we set an internal policy to record our own meetings so that Robert may not have to come unless he wants to. And these public meetings will be made available online for everybody to see if they wanted to. And so, I'd like to pass a motion in the interest of transparency and the public good. I propose the Upper Bucks County Technical School should make reasonable efforts to internally record all JOC public meetings and post them publicly on YouTube and/or our website within 24 hours.
Second.
Anybody have any discussion on this?
If it's gonna be an action item, you should probably reopen it for public comment.
Okay. And can I ask the board first?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So, I would, you know, this is something that there's a lot. First of all, you have to decide who's reporting it, what are the meetings, I mean, I don't think that this is a, hey, let's just do this at the end
Sure
of the
is,
meeting,
absolutely.
kind of an item. I think that this is a more involved conversation. Are we recording committee meetings or just the board meetings? Because the committee meetings.
I'm talking about the
are also
JOC
public.
meeting.
Well,
right
the facilities and finance and policy committees.
That is not the topic
are
of
also-
conversation at the moment.
But they're also public, and so if you're recording one, are you recording all of them?
Would you
I
like to
think
make a motion for those subcommittees later?
What I would like to do is have a thorough discussion about this topic instead of just it being like a knee-jerk reaction to throw this on a board meeting and vote on it immediately.
I don't believe that this is a knee-jerk reaction. I believe it's something that probably we should have been doing for quite a few years now, since it's 2020.
I would like to suggest that we push this to a committee for discussion, so we can move on this evening. It's not something that I'm prepared to approve or disapprove this evening. There's a lot of details. Mr. Linder does a fine job with this camp there.
It is not his job, though.
I know
It
it's
is
not
our
his
job.
but the details of how it has to be done, what is done, it's going to take some discussion. And I would like to.
We actually had a committee that formed this
And
policy.
policy.
And we met several times about it. And the difference is, as a member of the public, Mr. Linden is free to do and record it as he pleases. Once it becomes internal to the JOC, you have to make sure that there are things that you are ADA compliant, okay? That you have strict rules around how long it's going to be out there, when you're gonna approve it, because again, at the end of the day, the only thing that's official are the approval of our minutes. So you really have some issues that you need to vet out before you do it. Not saying yea or nay, all right? I'm just saying there are things that have to be vetted before you go bring this forward. Do you want to do it as an audio only minutes? Do you want to do it audio video? These are all the things you need to do. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying yea or nay. I think the spirit of transparency, I get what you're trying to do, but I think we need to vet it out. I don't know if that's a committee or further discussion as a whole, but I know it has to be, I would like it to be vetted out and discussed a little more. Because then it ends up becoming a need for a policy. That's the point, right?
All right, not a vote. Not a vote. Straw poll. Of the JOC board members who thinks this is a relatively good idea, and maybe we should set up a committee to discuss it. Anybody think this is a relatively good idea to continue on discussion? Can I see a show of hands?
You could also, if you wanted, you could amend your own motion to essentially send it to the policy committee for the development. Because I would recommend that if you're,
Okay,
I have
no,
no position
that's
on it.
perfect, actually.
Yeah.
I'd like to amend my motion to move this issue to the policy committee, to write a policy for this.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, I was delayed.
Is anybody opposed?
I just want to be more clear on what's going to policy. Is it for them to investigate?
A procedure and a policy to bring back to us that will dictate.
It will still allow you to vote no on the policy, but the direction to the committee would be, if we're doing this, what would it look like? And then this JOC could then decide, we're not adopting this.
And I'd love to see your policy from Pennridge, since we might not have to reinvent the wheel necessarily.
We have a specific person.
You have a specific person.
It's more complicated
Then our secretary setting up a camera in the back of the room and recording it and uploading it to YouTube.
Yeah.
That's a quick account.
This is actually
Seriously,
a long
turn on the
process
camera.
to get, it's actually a long process.
A no or a yes?
I was a no.
Okay. You were a no?
I was a no, yeah.
Oh, no to sending it to a committee?
I was a no.
Oh.
I was a no. No.
I didn't
Oh,
hear,
no.
I didn't hear you.
In the interest of being a Grinch.
I had a sweater like that, but I
I didn't
failed.
wear it tonight, but I would have. Looks good with the green when I
Well,
put it.
I am disappointed, and we are out of order. Not because I'm disappointed, but because we all keep talking. Let's go move on. Yes, sir.
May I make a recommendation? If the policy committee decides to videotape and record the meeting, would you please include microphones so everyone's heard? Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for that note.
And before you move to public comment, we had they were
Yes.
looking for some direction on it.
Okay, and so we're going to end discussion on the recording, and we will begin discussing policy 125. Dr. Harner, you wanted some direction because we tabled it.
You want to know why?
No, you want to, where do you want us to go? And
So go ahead.
So my initial concern is those individual. So I don't have a very strong personal feeling that we should necessarily offer our programs during the day to adults. However, I do believe there needs to be some flexibility for exiting students that within maybe a certain number, maybe a year or two after they graduate, to continue on the certifications or licensing that they were already getting, maybe something like that. Because I don't think we can set age limits. That might be discriminatory.
The policy does not actually define adult, which is a little bit interesting. So it's unclear. Yeah, and I think, Mike, or correct me if I'm wrong about this, but of the 15 or adult students, day students, I think maybe only one of them is in that category over the last 4 years. But it would be possible to do a policy that basically defines adult to mean someone who hasn't already enrolled pre-adult, pre-diploma from the sending district.
to complete the program.
Yeah, so that those students could be allowed.
Uninterrupted program.
Right, they got
So,
it.
so, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, there could be medical issues.
Has this gone to the policy committee before it came here?
No.
So this is another situation where I feel like,
They did it today.
well, but the same day again, right? So I think this is, I don't like hearing about something the meeting of and then voting on, like the day of and then voting on it. I like to hear about it, digest it, see if I have questions and comments, look into some things, ask some questions, and then vote on it the following month, especially something as important as eliminating a policy. If they hadn't come to this meeting tonight and shared those concerns because they saw it on the agenda, and had we not even put it on the agenda and added it as a motion, we never even would have known any of that information. This policy could have been eliminated. There could have been unintended consequences that we didn't know about. And that's why I think that that process and that transparency is so important. So there's other pieces just outside of this. Our current students, does that mean all of a sudden they're out? Is there a transition program? Are we grandfathering them in? They talked about how sometimes there's someone, you know, they had a woman in her 50s whose gift it was to come and do, like, there's a lot of discussion. This is a complicated topic, and I'd like to actually thoroughly have the discussion. And a board meeting is not usually where that discussion happens. It's usually something that happens in a committee meeting. So, and I also think it's typical because all of our committee meetings are at the same time, so it's hard because you can't, if I wanna hear what's going on in this discussion, I can't because then I'm in a different committee meeting. So a lot of the structure, I feel like, makes it very difficult for us to be able to make decisions with all of the facts. And so,
The policy is, adult students during the day. It's not students that have been in the school as seniors and didn't finish their hours. We're not throwing them out. It's the adult students that are coming in paying $6,000, $8,000, that are 30, 40 years old, 20 years old, sitting next to my daughter at 14 or 15. I'm for the safety of our secondary students, I do not feel that opening up the door to bring people in during the day.
quickly voting to eliminate a policy on the night of the board meetings that we haven't heard about until tonight. And there's the possibility of important unintended consequences that don't get brought into the process when we're not having that thorough discussion. That's all I'm saying. I think you have very valid points. But I think then we need to look at all of the pros and cons and what's a way to word something that gives us all of the things we want to keep and eliminates the things we don't want to keep. And that may be different for different people, but that's why we have to have that discussion.
So, just from a structural point of view, you raise a good point, which I have noticed about this structure too, which is that the committee meetings taking place right before the regular meeting almost defeats the purpose of the committee meeting, which normally allows the whole board to get some pre-reviewing of the material. And I'm assuming, because this is the tech school, none of you are interested in adding another night to your busy meeting schedules. So I'm not actually sure yet how you solve that structural problem.
Unless it's a delay, unless the stuff you see on the committee meetings this month appears on the board meeting agenda next month.
Do you have a first reading that needs to be done before any policy changes?
For policy changes, yes, but not for abolition, which is a weird little donut hole in the custom.
I don't think the policy needs to polish, I think it needs revisited. To include,
What
what if somebody would start as a
Because we are talking
junior?
about those students that would just want to come back for that one semester that just left school. They are considered adults. They are no longer
Right.
students. in
They're
the
still
district. So
adult.
we need just to provide some clarity as to, I think, everybody's comfortability.
I guess to move this on, I would suggest that we obviously table the decision tonight, have another policy committee meeting next month. Unless you really need to get it done quickly, bring on some sort of decision.
But as far as direction goes, I think the direction is to revamp, change, pick a term, the policy rather than abolish the policy. I'm hearing that there are some caveats there, some exceptions that we need to make sure are in the policy, unless you're telling me that the secondary students until they complete it are covered in another policy, which I don't know because we haven't gone through all our policies yet. I would suggest that we look to not abolish, but to revamp it to fit and make sure that we don't leave those folks out like that. Because I understand what you're trying to get at, and I'm all for the points you bring up 100%, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
And I think also, since we're having this discussion, changing the process so that we can do this without having all of this at a board meeting would be helpful. Having, maybe if we're all agreeing that whatever we talk about in committees this month, we vote on next month. Obviously, there's gonna be some exceptions when you have a contract deadline that, came up that you couldn't help. But for the most part, I think that should be the pattern. But the other thing is, if you're having all the committee meetings at the exact same time, then you're missing all of that discussion. Then you're still gonna end up in this meeting saying, wait, well, did we get answers to that question? What happened in that? Instead of being a part of that discussion.
I think at one point our committee meetings were staggered, like
They were.
facilities at 5:30, finance at 6:30, policy at.
Right.
I thought at one time they were staggered.
They were.
Hey,
You want to go way back, they were just nice.
Let's not go that far back.
Well, you could have a committee meeting evening and then a board meeting evening.
But
We could do a lot of things.
to Megan's point, though, the committee recommendation should carry the most serious weight of the discussion, not spend an hour discussing the point. Because if you're not on the committee, then you need to be on that committee and not on other committees, because we'll be in here.
Mike, got some homework for you. You deal with Ms.
Coaches.
and talk
Sorry.
about some of the exceptions to the rule that we might be amending, and how, speak with some of the other staff members about their programs, the ones that may require students to roll into the next year. We should have some sort of limited procedure for the exception to the policy. It's not an exception. Limited circumstances where students will be able to remain enrolled for a certain defined period, not exceed so long, so that we don't have to worry about 2 adult students being integrated with our minors during the school day.
Our students that have IEPs, they can stay here till
23, 21.
21 years
But
old.
those aren't the ones that we're
Those,
talking about.
well, but those are the ones that
They're not.
I would probably say a high percentage of those kids aren't finishing. The kids that are finishing
They
are
don't.
moving on.
So are those students who are allowed to be here to 23, would they be?
They're IEP students.
Yeah, they gotta stay.
They're not,
We're
they're not all, they're talking about students who switched programs in 10th grade or 11th grade, and because they started that program, they need extra time to finish it. That's different than saying a student who has an IEP.
Well, it's just like you said, a 12th grade student who said, oh my gosh, I should have went to tech school. I want to be like maybe an electrician's my thing. Well, then we give them that option to finish, like first year is their 12th grade year, and then they can be here, probably a year after.
Well, that's just, you can't do that because that's taking away seats from the other.
To save you time, sir,
Please.
and the board time, they'll have this, something with the superintendents the week before the next board meeting, and at the board meeting, at the policy committee, we'll have a proposal for you.
Before the next board meeting.
And then in February, if the board likes it in January, vote on it in February.
You okay, Mike?
Yes.
All right. Is that okay, Mr. Chief? All right. I like that.
That was.
That's why we have them around.
So we have what?
That and for his really great Christmas sweaters.
All right,
But they
it was a
don't
good
play in
meeting,
March.
you guys. Any other JOC concerns?
I do have a concern, since we're talking about committees. Can we revisit the opportunity to split out policy and programs and services? Because policy is getting shortchanged by programs and services, and programs and services are getting shortchanged. If you think, as you already clearly stated, that committee meetings are short now, try doing 2 separate and distinct avenues in one meeting. And I don't know if that means you have to stagger those 2 or set additional time aside. I don't have an answer. I have a problem, I just don't have an answer right now. And I've tried to think through it for a while, as you know, I've brought this up before, and I don't know, but I know it has to, if we're ever gonna get this policy stuff changed, and it sounds like we really need to get this policy stuff moving, especially if we're gonna do the right thing and stagger them, we need to separate those 2 out. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you have any ideas, or if you wanna put somebody, not me, on.
They were volunteers.
Because I've already overthumped this, all right? But I think we need to talk about it as a group to figure out, but it has to be separated out. It's my opinion as one of my concerns, I guess it would be, not an opinion.
Other feedback from other JSC members in regards to what you said?
I think what I'm hearing is that it's more of a time concern and that we don't have enough time to do both of those topics. And they are very different topics, so putting them together really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Other than there might have been motivation to try to condense the number, and there's 3 people from each sending district, and so it worked out very nice and clean. But I think staggering the meeting and extending the time is really the biggest thing, so that we have time to do all of these things. Because we barely have time to get through the facilities stuff. It's like, Bill's trying to speak as fast as he can, a mile a minute, so we can get through everything, so we can get back into the next thing. And that's just facilities with 3 topics on it.
And then there's an executive meeting before our meeting here even.
Right, so I think we need to stagger the times, give more time. I'm not opposed to separating them, but I think the real problem is we need more time to cover 2 topics like that.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy not to serve on 2 committees. I don't want anybody fighting over that other committee, so I'm more than happy to not serve on it.
Over the years that I've been doing this, I do see how the policy and the programs committee eventually became one committee, because it's hot or cold. you know, you're sinking or swimming. And what were you gonna say?
I hate to even say it out loud.
Oh, no.
Here it comes.
But where you have, and I'm hearing that much of the JOC, and this is different from, 5 years now, maybe a very different JOC, but this JOC has an interest in participating in many, if not all of the committees, and I'm wondering if a committee of the whole, which would require a separate night in lieu of committees, actually would be easier to manage if everybody wants to be participating in all those discussions anyway. But it would
So,
require-
I like that
It would
idea.
require a separate meeting night to do that.
I don't like doing that.
I know, that's why I was.
I think I said that, I was like, I don't care. I
Almost.
live 2 minutes away.
Actually, really, well, the
But
whole
I-
conversation
I-
is pushing it towards that.
Yeah, right, and it may be in 5 years from now, people are content to be in their islands on committees.
And sometimes there's more of one thing and less of another thing, so it makes sense to have a committee night, and then you're going through priority order, which, makes sense. I think
So I
that's a
would
good
say,
idea.
the committee as a whole for a separate policy committee, you know, that is the way to go.
School's growing up, you know?
And then you can essentially abolish the committees.
Whenever.
Yeah, when everybody's on every committee.
No.
Now, but do we,
No. Just the policy committees.
but does our policy speak to what committees we have and who serves in the committees, that we want to each, so then do we have to have a vote to change the articles of agreement, or?
Yeah, I doubt it's in the
It's not in
articles.
there, but in the
But
policy,
you
and then we
probably
change
are.
the
I haven't
policy.
looked.
So it's,
I very much doubt it's in the articles.
I don't think there is.
I don't think so. I mean, I think the policy committee is the most important one that we all really want to have a voice in all our districts, especially right now with the changing of the employee handbook, or updating of the employee handbook, and the way we're going through the policies. It might be timely for all of us to make sure we get together for all these things.
yeah, but I think, when you have everything in your program, people are gonna want to hear.
Yeah, that's gonna be
The
a
subcommittee
big
thing
thing.
works, though. I mean, and then they bring it to us. I don't want to, all of a sudden, like, everybody comes to every subcommittee meeting, like, I don't think that's what everyone's asking for.
Yeah, but I think the reality is not everybody's gonna want to come to everything, but at least it leaves the option open so that people can. And then people can make that decision on their own, based on the agenda. As long as we have an agenda that's out ahead of time, that tells you what's going to be on there, then people can decide whether or not those things are important enough that they're gonna come.
You're so picky about things.
We've been here 4 hours tonight already.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Let's revisit this.
It seems like.
My son's standing outside the high school, now we've
There's
picked up.
a need for a separate
I'm sorry about that.
evening meeting.
He's a good boy.
Hours. That being said, does anybody have a day of the week when it would suit to have an evening meeting?
Wednesday's no good. We have all our meetings on Wednesdays.
Does it make sense to do another Thursday, since we're here on a Thursday?
Thursdays are bad for Quicktown, that's
Just
why
the
we have
fourth
our,
one, right?
just the second and fourth.
So we're here the third.
And the first one is our facilities meeting, and you're the facilities chair.
Our third
So
Mondays
first,
are
yeah,
open.
first, second, and fourth are gone. Still, oh wait, that's today.
What'd you say?
He said out of
That's a good idea.
When you have software problems.
But what if you had a committee of the whole on the same day, but just before the thing, for all
That's what I was
Wednesdays,
thinking,
for
like,
all of them?
a committee of the whole at 5:30 on our regular
Oh,
days.
right, right. We can get it done.
No, we break out the subcommittees.
Well, that's what we have now.
But if we all sat together at 5:30 till 7.
We never shut up, and we never get to move on to the next topic. All right,
We need a committee to talk about what's new in the committee.
You started with your camera.
all right, I don't actually know what to do.
Is a
JOC concerns, you have to do announcements.
No, I mean, I'd love to, so, do we want to finish this topic in some capacity? Like, even if we agree that we're going to talk about it again next month?
Why don't we put it as a discussion topic for next month?
Is that what you'd like to do?
I'm just throwing it out there, I'm not,
Yeah, that works.
this is a group of 9, so,
does it
or
make
10
sense?
actually.
Does it make sense to send out an email with like, for everybody, maybe having everyone send the Tracy Graham your merchandise whiteboard, so we can compile this everything, right? And everyone's comment. Or someone else.
Here's the way we're gonna move forward. We're gonna start our committee meetings as one committee meeting, starting next month, and we're gonna start at 5:30. And instead of breaking down into the subcommittees, we're gonna do it that way as a committee as a whole. We won't get enough of that. And it's open for change, but that's what we're gonna do next month. And everybody gets to go home tonight. And you can go pick up your son. I'm sure.
It's not that called out. It's only a gym short.
But I think we need a group discussion, and that's the next best way for this to happen.
Build character.
All right, the next regular JOC board meeting is going to be January 16th, 2020 at 7 o'clock here in the JOC boardroom. Are there any other JOC concerns before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Oh, should I ask for public comment? I thought I already did that though before.
You did.
I did, yeah. We've been talking about this stuff.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed?
Go out of here.
Have a great night, everybody. Merry Christmas.